So as you guys may or may not know, Jimmy Dore is a complete clown. He is somebody who is extremely narcissistic, is all about himself, yet parades around to being all about the issues and all about the people. So what ended up happening recently was, this was kind of appalling, coming from Jimmy Dore. But basically, Joe Biden pulls out of Afghanistan, gets a ton of backlash from the media, which he claims to hate, and they started criticizing him for his pullout. And instead of giving Joe Biden credit for pulling out of Afghanistan, which, regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, I think that if you're being honest with yourself, you would have to agree that it was an extremely, extremely brave move on Joe Biden's part to actually pull out. Because as you guys know, the war machine is very strong. The media does not represent the people and does not have the views of the people. The media is funded by the war machine, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, these kinds of companies that need wars to keep going, to keep selling arms and weapons and war supplies. So they're going to be 95% against the pullout, but the people are 75% in favor of the pullout, according to poll numbers. So obviously, you would expect Jimmy Dore would come out and say, wow, I'm surprised Joe Biden did this. He actually pulled out. I'm going to give him credit. But actually, what ended up happening was he actually ended up joining in with the media and criticizing Joe Biden's pullout. It seems like he hasn't directly criticized the pullout itself, but rather the manner in which he pulled out. So there's a video. It says, "Not my fault," says Biden and Kamala on Afghanistan. That's this video. And so in this video, what he is doing here is he's making a video comparing the fail of Biden, where he said that it wasn't going to be like Saigon, where people are being airlifted off the U.S. embassy, which obviously did end up happening in Kabul. And so he's covering all of that, and he's looking at and just solely criticizing the way of the pullout. Now, can you criticize the way that the pullout happened while also supporting the pullout? Yes, you can. But through Jimmy Dore's coverage, all he's doing is shitting on Joe Biden's pullout. And also, when reading through the comments section of this video, it made me quickly realize that Jimmy Dore's audience is actually vast majority right-wingers now. So, and I'm going to show you his video list later to show you just how he's basically a right-wing channel at this point. He doesn't really do anything left-wing. All he does is jerk off right-wingers at any chance, and then he just shits on Democrats in every way, even when it's not being honest and not being fair in his coverage. But, this comment says, "If you don't like how I handled Afghanistan, then you ain't black, Joe Biden." This is obviously coming from a conservative perspective. This is not something that a liberal or progressive would say. This is now what Trump supporters and Republicans are trying to do, and obviously Jimmy Dore joins this because that's who he appears to love. They're trying to shit on Joe Biden's pullout as much as they can because they want to criticize him in any way they can. So it says, "Don't forget the Taliban is still on Twitter." That's another Trump supporter basically saying that, it's hypocritical that Taliban are still on Twitter, so it's another right-wing comment. I love how Biden speaks if he wasn't VP for nearly half of that war. And apparently I think he might have even been against it when he was VP. Obviously he doesn't have the ruling power. He's the vice president. But seriously, him pulling out of Afghanistan was a really, really bold move and very brave. I was definitely very shocked that he actually did that. Not my fault. I inherited this from Trump, who inherited it from me. Obviously, again, Joe Biden was vice president, but likely another right-wing comment. So pretty much what you can see through these comments essentially is it just seems like these comments are coming from right-wingers. President Trump's Twitter account was censored, but the Taliban was posting clear again. You're not really going to see that from a progressive. So these are the kinds of things that you're seeing, which tells you, and this one's even more hilarious. Just shout out to, quote, nuclear Jimmy Dore for covering the news that journalists are supposed to be discussing, ladies and gentlemen. Literally, I was watching CNN the other day. They were literally covering the exact same shit that Jimmy Dore was saying in this video. If anything, his coverage right now is exactly the same as the media. This video is literally just looking at his videos where he's saying it's not going to be like Saigon, and then showing Kabul and looking at how it actually was like Saigon. So that's what he was doing. So it's hilarious. He's becoming his own enemy, I guess. But this is the thing. This is what's to understand about Jimmy Dore. He could not give less of a fuck about policies. What he cares about is ego and narcissism. So in general, when it comes to YouTubers and these channels, people who create their own YouTube channel inherently have to have some sort of narcissism, because they automatically think that I should get my word out there. It's kind of like how Socrates said that the last people who should be in power are the people who volunteer to run for those positions, because it's essentially indicative of them wanting power. So it's kind of similar in that way. Jimmy Dore is an extreme case of the narcissism involved, but the truth is anybody who starts their own channel has to have at least some level of narcissism to be like, okay, out of all these millions of people, I want to get my voice out there and amplified, and I want to have a show named The Jimmy Dore Show. So it's that kind of stuff. So everybody has it to a degree. Jimmy Dore is an extreme case of this, where even when Tulsi Gabbard, for example, came out against Medicare for All, he still defended her. Even when she endorsed Joe Biden, he was still trying to defend her. He was asking her, like, well, is this an endorsement or is it just kind of a recommendation kind of thing? And she was like, no, it's an endorsement. And it's like, dude, you are a fucking clown. He does not give a shit about the policies. It's all about how he can stroke his fragile, bitch-ass ego. That's literally Jimmy Dore. So all this guy does, he just jerks off right-wingers all day long. And so this video, Ron Paul predicted Afghan debacle 10 years ago. You know, when you should be making a video saying, wow, Joe Biden pulled out of the Afghanistan war. How crazy is that? It's a big deal. There's no way that if you were to ask Jimmy Dore, and, you know, maybe he talked about it before, there's no way he would have believed. I certainly didn't believe he was going to pull out of Afghanistan. And like, if Obama had done this, all the backlash that came from the media, he would have backtracked, because Obama was a bitch like that. But Biden, low-key, he's been having some balls on this. So a good person, I think, to contrast this situation with is actually Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk, because he has been coming out in favor of what Joe Biden has been doing. And so, you know, here's a tweet from him. He says, Biden's withdrawal from Afghanistan is the most brave thing any U.S. president has done in my lifetime. Changed my mind. I mean, hard to disagree with that one. This is a very, very brave move. The entire media is against you and is going to totally scrutinize and lie about you left and right. Here's a tweet that literally applies to Jimmy Dore. It says, it's astonishing how every issue with the Afghanistan withdrawal is under a microscope when the war itself didn't get 1/10 of the scrutiny. Selective emphasis is how consent is manufactured. That's literally exactly what Jimmy Dore is doing, which is exactly what mainstream media was doing. During the, you know, like 2018, 2019, you didn't see CNN reports about Taliban either control or contest 50% of Afghanistan. You didn't see that. They didn't cover the war at all for like multiple years. It just didn't get any coverage. But now all of a sudden when the pullout happens, now you start all the coverage. So people aren't educated on the issues. The awareness isn't proper. And so this literally applies to what Jimmy Dore is doing here, where he's selectively emphasizing the way that the withdrawal is going. So you could criticize the withdrawal constructively while also being in favor of the pullout, but he's not doing that. He's just criticizing the pullout and is refusing to give any credit to Joe Biden for even pulling out. This one says, President Donald Trump would have gotten every single American interpreter and piece of equipment out of Afghanistan. The man understood optics. The media's kid glove treatment of Biden enabled this disaster. So this is trying to say that Trump would have gotten out of Afghanistan. That's complete bullshit. He did that on purpose, where the schedule to get him out, to get U.S. troops out, was after his presidency. Kyle says, Trump actually would have stayed in Afghanistan if fake withdrew to about 2,000 U.S. troops there, and we know because that's what he did as president of the United States, you partisan hack. Trump totally would have done this thing he objectively didn't do when he could have. Why is it so hard for people to just be honest? I despise Biden, but he did the right thing on this. Deal with it, you freaks. So, this is how you're supposed to respond if you are a consistent person who is honest and who cares about policies and is less concerned with ego and drama and politicians and all of this stuff. You give credit where credit is due. Okay, the fact that he withdrew is really, really shocking to me. It's hard to even believe that he did it, because I definitely didn't think he was actually going to do it. It was absolutely the right move to pull out, and you could argue that the pullout kind of reinforced why the pullout should have even happened. So, this is somebody who's honest, who's legit. And this is someone you can compare and contrast to Jimmy Dore and ask yourself, whose political commentary would you rather listen to? Somebody who is genuinely honest and is giving an objective view of things and is not obfuscated by politicians or personalities and stuff like that, but just the policy? Or would you rather listen to Jimmy Dore, somebody who's interested in just simply stroking his ego, sucking his own dick, just narcissism, all of that stuff, and just cares about whether or not a political candidate comes on his shitty show? Which one would you prefer? So this is a good compare and contrast. And, I guess if you are somebody who's not a Kyle fan, but also not a Jimmy Dore fan, I don't know, maybe this will push you to be more supportive of Kyle. I'm not really sure. But the real truth about Jimmy Dore at this point is the guy is basically just Tim Pool. If you look at his videos, every single one of these videos is just anti-Democrat, and then he just does like tacit support of Republicans. So obviously here he's supporting Ron Paul, obviously. But, there's even a video here that's talking about how, I don't even know if it's true, but, it's a title of a video about, is Biden doing more drilling than Trump? I can't find it right now for some reason. But, it's just clear that basically that's the kind of thing he does. Is it because he wants to? It's right here. Biden worse for environment than Trump. So it's all just anti-Democrat stuff, anti-progressive stuff, and then it's all just pro-Republican. So he's no different than Tim Pool at this point. He's clearly not honest with anything. It just seems to be the truth. Like I said, he's extremely narcissistic, so that plays into this heavily. But, I think he's just trying to embolden his fans as well. But Jimmy Dore is a clown. Do not trust his political... I don't know why you would trust his political coverage, knowing that he prioritizes by far politicians' personality and ego over actual policy decisions and honesty. So he's not being honest in his coverage of the situation. If Trump were to have done this, and I'm sure he did give glowing coverage to Trump, and I'm sure the media was against that at the time too. But if Trump were to have done this, do you think that Jimmy Dore would have said this as well? Of course not. And he's even siding with CNN and the mainstream media here. So why even watch him if you're just going to get some, drama-stirring channel that just says bullshit based on whoever the politician is, and to stroke his own ego and, suck his own cock? What is the point? Why would you listen to that? Seriously. So this is just kind of important to understand. The guy is just not an honest person.